Hello everyone, Lurgs here, and today it's how to build the eDecks Atlas Gazebo Deluxe. And just a note, this is not a sponsored video, this is bought with our hard-earned cash. Just before we get started, apologies for the length of this video, but it is a comprehensive video, and at the end of it you'll have a lovely gazebo looking like this. And we actually bought this to house our Bestway inflatable lazy spa hot tub, and it looks really good inside here. It just gives it a bit of protection and just makes it look cool. The Deluxe Gazebo arrives on a truck. When it all arrives, make sure you check it off and make sure that everything is there. Now this assembly will require 2 people, and at the end when you put the roof on you may require a 3rd or 4th person to help you. And these are the fitting instructions that you get with the pack, and these are really good. These are the tools that you'll need for this build. You'll need a tape measure, you'll need a drill and some wooden drill bits. You'll also need a screwdriver, preferably a cordless screwdriver because there's a lot of screwing in. And you'll need a Phillips or crosshead screwdriver bit. And if you're securing it to a concrete base, you'll need some anchor bolts, and I just got these from a local hardware shop. A pencil, spirit level, step ladder and a kettle. The first thing we'll do is assemble the apex roof, and there will be 2 of these, so 1 on either side. Let's assemble one of the apex roof panels. What you'll need first is 4 of these, which are the 2x2 and 880mm in length. And you'll also need the 2 long edges, which are the 2x2 1840mm lengths. And these 4 smaller lengths need to be spaced out evenly. I'm just going to lay it down on the patio. Don't forget we'll be making 2 of these, but obviously I'll just show you and film one of them. So let's just measure these out, make sure they're nice and uniform. So these are exactly 2 foot apart, so mark that up with a pencil on either side. And for this you're going to need the long screws, and you're going to need 8 of these. Now I always recommend pre-drilling, so that's making a pilot hole with your drill bit. So take a wooden drill bit which is smaller than the screw that you're using. That just prevents any splitting of any wood when you're screwing through, because if you don't put in a pilot hole you could screw in the screw and then you end up with split wood, and that is a bit of a nightmare. So always do a pre-drill. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, use a drill bit that is smaller than your screw that you're using. Obviously hold this down securely with your foot. I'm not sure why I'm not doing that at this point. You can see where I've marked up the drill bits there with the pencil. Now the 4 inner bits of timber go inside, so I'm just going to get my glamorous assistant to hold this into place. Then take your electric screwdriver where you've put in those pre-drilled holes, line up the smaller timber on the inside. I'm going to do the inside ones first, not the outside ones. And another one here. So that is the 2 inside ones done. I've just flipped it over. Screw these ones down. Again, all pre-drilled holes, but you still get a good bite. Then we're going to put on the end parts. But these go inside, not on the outside. Obviously on the outside they wouldn't reach.
Let me help.
So get someone to just hold that in place. And I've already screwed that one down, and this end as well. So flip that over and secure the ends on the other side. And there we go, that is one apex roof panel complete. So make sure you do that exactly the same. So you've got 2 apex roof panels. And now we'll join the 2 roof frames together with the 4 wedges. And these are the 4 roof centre support wedges here. So I'm just going to lay it out roughly how it looks. So just put one of these on the side. Then we're going to be securing both roof side panels to these roof wedges here. Now for this you're going to need 8 75mm screws and 8 50mm screws. Use the longer ones on the inside and you use the shorter ones on the outside. So use a 50mm screw on this edging part here, and again always pre-drill a hole, which we've already done. And then on the inside one, a 75mm screw. And screwing that in with the electric cordless screwdriver. So that is both ends secured. Now let's do the 2 in the middle. Fabulous. Now we're ready to attach the other roof panel. Obviously this is a bit trickier, so it's a good idea to support it underneath with some extra timber and then get someone to hold it up for you. So just line it all up. Okay, if you lift it up so it's... And then get your glamorous assistant just to lift it up and hold it into place.
Move it across a bit.
Just wants to be moved over slightly.
Yeah, that's a bit better, isn't it? It's a bit too far.
Fabulous. Now don't forget, obviously wood is not a perfect symmetrical piece every single time, so there may be some slight adjustments to make to the 75mm screw on the inside. So I'm going to just secure the outer ones first. And then the other end, all the while holding it in place. Again, pre-drilled holes, then screwing those in. And then securing the inside ones. Fabulous, and that is the roof frame all secure and screwed in, and that's what it looks like the right way up. And now we're ready to attach the featheredge roofing panels, and there are 24 of these featheredge roofing panels. Now just note that these are tapered, so they're thicker on one edge and thinner on the other edge. So that's really important when you're securing them to the apex roof panel frames. They have to go on a very specific way. So the shorter tapered part at the top and the thicker edge at the bottom. And we'll be using 11 featheredge roof panels on either side, which then leaves you 2 for the top. So just measure those out. You can mark those up with a pencil if you like. So it's a good idea just to lay them all out. But before we start screwing those in, it's a good idea to support the roof panel underneath, because obviously you're going to be putting pressure on it. You don't want it to stress in the middle there. So make sure you support that underneath. Now for distance, we made it about 3.5 centimetres between each one. But before we start securing those, it's time to stop for a spot of lunch. Jam donut, apple and a lovely cup of tea. Oh! Mm-mm. And a cup of tea for my glamorous assistant. And when you're measuring these feather edge roof panels, make sure the overhang is the same on each end. So it all looks nice and neat and uniform. So always start at the bottom one first. So if you get the first one absolutely perfect, then the rest will just line up automatically as you screw further up the roof. And again, small pilot holes. Now for this you're going to need 96 screws, which are the 40mm screws. And again, as with everything else we're doing today, always drill a pilot hole. And start with the outer edge first. And I'm going to be putting the screws in the middle here. Just before I secure the rest of it, just going to make sure it hasn't moved. And I'm just going to mark these up for drilling about 6 centimetres in, which is about the middle of the feather edge roofing panel. So these are the 40mm screws, which are the shorter ones in the pack. And let's get all these screws securely in, and the last one in the middle here, so that's 4 screws for each feather edge roof panel. And then you're just working your way upwards. Remembering that these feather edge roof panels are tapered, like I mentioned right at the start. So it's always the thicker edge at the bottom. And I'm just measuring each end just to make sure it's nice and uniform and level across the whole width of the roof panel. Now building this entire roof panel with all these feather edge panels will take a couple of hours. And the age-old classic saying, measure twice, drill once, or measure twice, cut once. And as I mentioned at the beginning, obviously the higher up you get up this roof panel, you're putting a bit more stress on the middle of the roof, so make sure that is supported underneath, just with some bricks or some timber. And if this video does well, I'll be able to buy myself a new pair of shorts. Oh yeah. You can see there the supports for the roof. I've just put some bricks at either end, because the higher up you get, the more stress you're going to be putting on it. And the higher up you get, the more difficult it gets to get into the middle to screw that in, especially when you get to the other side. Now if you've measured it all correctly, when you get near the top, it should fit perfectly and still look nice and uniform with all the panels, so they're all exactly the same length and looking the same. Now that is one side completely done. That's looking really good. So just do exactly the same on the other side, working your way from the bottom. That's very apt with that video clip. And then work your way all the way to the top. It's getting late in the day now, so almost finished with the roof panel. You should have 2 featheredge roofing panels left, and they just secure on the top of the 4 wedges. Again, with the thicker edge on the bottom and the thinner edge on the top. It's definitely worth marking these up with a pencil, especially in the middle part. Again, always drilling a pilot hole. Leave a slight gap in the middle of about 1 centimetre, because that's where the roof capping rail is going to be screwed down into. And these are secured exactly the same with the 40mm screws. Just make sure you leave a bit of an edge in the middle. Don't tuck it up nice and tight to the apex of that roof wedge, because we've got a small piece of timber to go across the middle. To do the 2 edges first, the 2 end parts first. And then the 2 screws in the middle. And then do exactly the same on the other side. So you've got this slight gap in the middle. Look at that, great stuff. And now we're ready to secure the roof capping rail, which is a 2030mm capping rail. And there's just one of these for the roof. This is 2030mm, 203 centimeters, and that goes across the middle there. Now this screws into the 4 support roof wedges. So what you want to do is mark these up with pencil, because once you get the outer 2 in, you're not going to be able to know where the markings are for screwing in. Just getting this all lined up. So level with each end. I've drawn a line in pencil where the screws are going to go, and as with everything else, drilling a pilot hole. And for this you're going to be using the 40mm screws, so you're going to need 4 of these. And obviously making sure that the roof is still supported underneath with the bricks and the timber. You're putting pressure on the top of the roof there. You do not want it to flex. There's quite a lot of weight on there now. And then just securing the 2 in the middle. Be careful not to put too much weight on the middle of the roof. You can reach it just by leaning in gently.
That's pretty good teamwork.
So that is the roof finished. It's getting pretty late in the day now. I'm going to stop and then carry on the next day. We've just laid it down the patio here and it's supported, so there's no danger of it splitting. Quick cup of tea at the end of the day, and then we'll come back tomorrow. where we'll be assembling the side panels. Right, today is assembling the side panels. These are absolutely identical. This is these two side panels here. And for this, you're going to need the 2x2 timber, which is 1,755 millimeters long, and the 13 handrail spindles, which are 900 millimeters long. Lay the two horizontal frames out, and then what you're doing is you're putting the handrail spindles inside on these frames and just making sure that they're all nice and even. Just measure those out so they're absolutely uniform all the way along. And for this, you're going to be using the 40mm screws. With the handrail spindles, always start from the outside in. Now we're just going to gently lay them down without securing them in place first. And then once they're all down, then we can take some more detailed measurements. So this is the 40mm screws you're going to be using today. Make sure they're flush with the horizontal frames, flush with the edge, and flush on the corner. Let's get the outside ones in first. Again, drilling a pilot hole. And get one of these 40mm screws in. And then one on the other side. And then just do the same at the other end. And then do the middle. So we've done an end each and then one in the middle. And then measuring them all out uniformly. And then screwing them all down, and then eventually you've got a side panel looking like this. And then that one is finished, so then we just need to make the second side panel, and it's much easier to do this one because you can just lay it on top of the one that you've just built and just make sure that it's all the same distances apart, and just drill all the pilot holes and put all those screws in. And then you'll have two identical side panels like this. And then they will be ready to put the handrail top rail on and the vertical frames. And now we'll be attaching the vertical frames. So these are the 2x2 1810mm frames. And also the handrail top rail. Now this is a bigger one because it's the Deluxe. And this is 1845mm. To take one of the vertical frames, and then just hold this up to the end. Make sure this is flush with the bottom. If you're not sure, make sure you put this on a nice level surface. It would be a good idea to lay this on top of a flat piece of timber. So the two vertical frames are on the end. I'm just going to hold these in position to see how that works. And then this is the handrail. And this just rests on the top here, and then eventually we'll be screwing that in from the underside. So that's how it will be looking. So I've now put the side panel on top of a flat piece of timber, just to make sure it's all nice and level on each side. Now I did notice there was a bit of a knot on that timber, so I've just spun it round. Ideally you don't want to be screwing through any knots in the wood, because that is more difficult and there's a chance of it going off astray. Again, mark it out with a pencil where you're going and then drill the pilot holes. And for this you're going to be using 75mm screws, which are the long screws. Now on this footage it looks like the drill is going backwards, but it's not. It's just the frame rate. It is actually going clockwise. And let's get one of these 75mm screws in. Now if you didn't have pilot holes, there's a danger of obviously the wood splitting, and it would be very difficult to screw into this. So with the pilot hole that's slightly smaller than the screw, it just makes it a lot easier. And then make sure this is flush at the bottom. Get a pilot hole into there. And a 75mm screw into this one. Make sure you keep it nice and still. Just got my glamorous assistant standing on it to hold it still. Cordless screwdriver's struggling a bit today. Could be time for a new one. I have charged it up. So that is one side of the vertical frame done. Do exactly the same on the other side. Lining it all up flush, putting your pencil marks in, drilling your pilot holes and screwing in your 75mm screws. And then it will look like this, ready for the handrail to be attached. The handrail just sits on the top here with the feather edge boarding on the outside. So where my glamorous assistant is, that will be the inside of the gazebo. Where I am is the outside of the gazebo. To make sure you put the handrail on the right way round. That's looking good. Now we secure this from underneath. And this is using 6 75mm screws. And I'm just lining these up roughly where they're going to go. You do them from underneath, so obviously they are hidden. So while you're drilling the pilot hole up and screwing upwards, make sure your glamorous assistant is holding that top handrail down so it's nice and flush and it doesn't start moving upwards. So you're getting all 6 75mm screws in along the underside. Obviously it's easier to mark those up in between the gaps because then it's easier to get your drill and cordless screwdriver in. So that's all 6 75mm screws underneath secured. What we need to do now is fix the horizontal framing, which is the horizontal framing along the top, just to secure the top of the side panel. And for this you'll need the 2x2 horizontal timber frame, which is 1755mm. Oops, nearly knocked my wife's head off there. Sorry. And this horizontal frame goes inside the side panel frame here. So you definitely will need an extra pair of hands. Obviously if you laid it down on the floor it is going to be easier, but it's definitely worth someone else holding it in place. So we've just laid it down on the floor here on a flat piece of timber, and this horizontal frame goes inside. So you just want someone holding that in place so it's nice and flush. And for this you'll be securing it with the 75mm screws, one on each side. So hold that nice and still, pilot hole in the middle, and secured with a 75mm screw. Great stuff. And do exactly the same on the other side. And then you'll have a side panel looking like this. That timber is slightly twisted, but obviously timber is a living organism, so it'll never be absolutely perfect. And now we'll be fixing the braces in the corners of the side panel. And these are the braces here, which are 380 millimeters. We've got 4 of these, 2 for each side panel. So we're just going to build one side panel first, and then the next process, it will just be a repeat to make this second side panel. So this is the bracing which goes in the corner here. Now if you try and put the 75mm screw in this way, it won't reach. So what you need to do is put the pilot hole in this way so it's parallel, but make sure it's quite a way along because you don't want that screw coming out of the end of the wood. With someone holding it into place, just so it doesn't move. And then get a 75mm screw in there. Holding it nice and tight.
Yeah, that's got to be better, hasn't it?
And then one on this side on the top. Again, not too far over so it pops out. It's already drilled the pilot hole. And the cordless screwdriver is really struggling now. Oh dear, oh dear. I have got a manual screwdriver as well, just in case. Wow, that's really struggling. Come on, Lurgs. And then do exactly the same on the other side with the cross bracing. And that is one side panel complete. So do exactly the same with the next side panel. But first of all, before you do that, have a spot of lunch. Now I might have to share this with Daisy and Rosie because they like a bit of lunch as well.
Nicely, nicely.
And Daisy will eat anything. Well, anything apart from celery or lettuce. Maybe lettuce if it's got a bit of salad cream on. Or fully refreshed. Let's get cracking. And these are the 2 side panels here, fully assembled. And next we'll be assembling the rear panel. And this is a very similar build to the side panels. For this you'll need 2 horizontal timber frames, the 2x2s and 1755mm, and 13 handrail spindles which are 900mm. As with the side panels that we built earlier on, you're putting the handrail spindles uniformly all the way along. Secure the end ones first, drilling a pilot hole, making sure it's flush with the corner. So we're going to do the end ones first, and for this you're using the 40mm screws. And then the other end. And then you're spacing out all those handrail spindles so they're level in between each one. It's a good idea to secure the middle one so that you've got one exactly in the middle, and then space them out to each end. And the cordless screwdriver's finally lost its oomph. So we're now using the manual screwdriver whilst the cordless one is being charged up. Much harder work, but it's good for you. So this is very similar to the side panels that we built earlier, so I'll cut all this footage down and And this is what you're left with. And then eventually you've got the rear panel looking like this. Fabulous. And that's me modelling it with my silly shorts on. As I mentioned earlier, if this video does well, I'll be able to buy some new clothes. And now you want 2 vertical framing horizontal timbers, which are the 2x2, 1810mm, and we're going to be securing those to each side. And we'll be securing these with 75mm screws, making sure it's nice and level and you've got someone holding it down so it's in place. Drilling your pilot hole. This is at the bottom of the rear panel, and get a 75mm screw into there. And the cordless screwdriver is charged up a little bit now. And then on the top part, a pilot hole, and then screwing in the 75mm timber frame into here. Great stuff. Then exactly the same on the other side. And then you'll have something looking like this. I've got to stop this modelling. Paris, Milan, New York. And now we're going to be securing the rear handrail, which is 1845mm. And this is the chunkier handrail because it's the Deluxe Gazebo. Oh, careful, there's a bit of a staple hanging out. Let's pull that out with some pliers. Making sure this goes on the right way round, where the handrail spindles are on the outside. So I'm on the outside of the gazebo, my glamorous assistant wife is on the inside of the gazebo. And as with the side panels, we're fixing this from the bottom with 75mm screws. Now we've got a slight gap there because this top timber handrail is very slightly warped, so make sure as you're putting the pilot hole in and screwing that in that your glamorous assistant is pushing down on that with some weight just so it's nice and tight. And it's a much hotter day today, and my glamorous assistant is modelling the latest shorts from Primark. Other brands are available. So we're getting 6 75mm screws in on the underside all the way along. And that is the rear handrail secured. Fabulous. Now we need to secure the horizontal frame at the top, which is the 2x2 1755mm timber frame. This goes on the inside, like this. So just lay that down, put that on something flat, just another piece of timber. Drill your pilot holes and then secure that with 75mm screws. Back to the manual screwdriver. So we've secured that on both sides. And now we're going to put in the cross bracing, which is the 2x2 timbers braces, 815mm. We're going to be installing one of these on either side of the rear frame. So this goes inside the frame here. And as with the cross bracing that we did on the side panels, you're putting these 75mm screws in parallel, you're not putting them in at an angle. To make sure you put them at a point where they're not going to split the wood, so bring them quite far in. And again, always drill pilot holes.
Should I kneel for this one? You can't see my shorts, can you?
Are you pushing it right as hard as you can? And then get a 75mm screw into there. All the while holding it in position. Do not want that to move. And then securing that top one there. And then do exactly the same on the other side with the cross bracing. Absolutely identical. So that is both cross bracings fitted and installed. And now we're going to install the decorative framing on either side. And these are secured using 40mm screws. These do offer a bit of support, but generally they're just for decorative use. It's the cross bracing which gives it the strength, but obviously that is securing the cross bracing in position as well, so it does give it extra strength. Make sure you get these on the right side. So this decorative bracing will be on the outside of the gazebo. So make sure it's on the outside where the handrail spindles are. Pilot holes on everything. And you're just making sure that these have got a uniform space in between each one. And these are the 40mm screws. Now we won't show all of this footage, but you're basically securing all of those decorative frames up to the small one. And this is what one side looks like when they're all secured. So do exactly the same on the other side. On that side there. And Daisy's wondering what is going on. Where's her dinner? Doesn't care about the gazebo. And that is the rear panel, fully assembled and ready to go. As modelled here by myself, the glamorous Lurgs. Paris, Milan, New York, baby. And next we're going to be fitting the side panels to the support posts. We're going to be fitting the support posts into the anchor bolts. Just be wary if you're doing it a different way, because the measurements will be different depending on whether you're putting the support posts straight into the ground or into anchor bolts. But we're going to be securing them into anchor bolts on a concrete base. And just a quick cup of tea before we get started. And this is one of the side panels which has been laid down flat on the patio and with the support posts placed on either side. Now the tops of the support posts are angled obviously for the apex of the roof, so make sure that you definitely put these on the right way round. And before securing it all with screws, make sure it is definitely the right way round. So this side panel here will be on the side, so the roof will be coming this way towards the left top hand side. Now we've just flipped this over just for ease of measuring. Now you need to have a minimum of 45mm gap from the lower tapered edge to where the top of the horizontal frame is on the side. So just mark that up with a pencil. So So that's on the lower tapered edge of the top of the support post. I've just marked that up with a pencil all the way along. And we're going to be securing this support post with 4 75mm screws, and these will be secured from the inside, screwing to the outside of the support post so that you can't see the screw heads from the outside. This is a slightly trickier procedure to try and get your drill bit in here and your cordless screwdriver, because the cross bracing is in the way. And then get the 75mm screw in. And we're using 75mm screws from the inside, and there's 4 of these. It's important when you're fixing this side support post that it's flush with the outside of the side panel, not on the inside. And then do exactly the same on the other side, securing it with the 4 75mm screws and making sure it's flush with the inside of the side panel, not the outside. Just going to be securing this 75mm screw in here, and you've got another 2 to put in here, and drilling the pilot hole from the inside. And I've just flipped this over just so we can get the bottom 2 screws in, just for easier access. So I've already drilled the pilot hole and then screwing in the bottom 75mm screw. And don't forget I've flipped this over so it's flush with this side. And then just secure that screw in there. And we've now got 4 75mm screws in this side support post, and we need to do that on the other side now. I'm about to fit the other side support post, but this handrail is sticking out a little bit too much, so it's just a case of just filing that down or cutting that down slightly so that the support post is flush. And in fact we just ended up cutting a tiny bit off the end using a saw. Then we can fit the support post so it's nice and flush up against the side panel. Again, making sure you've got it at the right angle with the minimum of 45mm from the lower tapered edge to the top of the side panel, so it's exactly the same as the other side. And if we've measured it correctly, it should be about 20 centimeters, 200mm at the bottom of the posts. And this should be the same on both sides. So if you've got a nice level base to put it on, then this should be absolutely spot on. And this is absolutely spot on, so that's great news. And that is the support post fitted to one side panel. Now do exactly the same for the other side panel, making sure that the tapered edges are on the outside so that the roof will go on and fit properly. And this is one of the side panels completely done. And just to show you how it will look like with the tapered edges, that is how the roof sits on the apex, with the tapered edges on the top of the support posts. Then for the other side panel, make sure you do exactly the same with the tapered edges fitting the support posts. And this is the other one built here, and this is standing up roughly what it's going to be looking like. So the tapered edges on the top there is obviously where the roof sits on, so they have to be angled at the correct side. Now we're not going to be securing it to the ground until the whole structure is all screwed together. I'm just going to show you roughly what it looks like. Obviously you want to make sure that everything is level. So these anchor bolts are not secured to the floor yet. Daisy's wondering what is going on. Everyone's getting involved. These anchor bolts are not secured, but we're kind of holding it into place. You can see here where the roof is going to go. So that is where the roof will sit on the tapered edges of these support posts. And Daisy's getting very excited about what is going on today.
What have you got? Luckily that's not part of it.
And after Daisy's had a little play, what we're going to be doing now is fitting the rear panel to the support posts and making sure that this is all nice and level. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're not going to secure this to the anchor bolts until the whole structure is all screwed together and nice and level. So with this rear panel, make sure that that is level with the side panels. So you may need to support this underneath just with some timbers or some bricks, just while you get that nice and level before you screw it all into place. And another quick pit stop for both of us. And this is the rear panel here. Make sure it's supported. Make sure you get that nice and level with a spirit level. And we're using 75mm screws to secure this rear panel to the support post. That's 4 on each side. Screwing from the inside. Then drill your pilot holes and you're screwing that into the rear support post, but making sure that it's flush with the inside, not the outside. So you've got a nice 90-degree angle there. Making sure it's still nice and level. Just need to pull this in a bit. So this is flush with the inside of the support post, not the outside. So drill your pilot holes. 4 on each side of the rear panel, screwing those into the rear support posts. Didn't get very good grip on that one. So one screw there at the bottom, one just there, another one there, and then one at the top. So that's 4 on either side, making sure it's all nice and level still, and level with the side panels. Now the anchor bolts are not bolted into the concrete base yet, because you still want to allow a bit of movement in case you need to get anything level or vertical level. And now one of the final stages, fitting the apex roof. Now for this you're going to need a bit of muscle, and you're definitely going to need some more help. At least 2 people to lift it, and then probably 1 or 2 people just to help you lower it down and secure it into place. And here I am with my hired muscle. So you need to lift it way over the top. Helps if you're tall. This is a very tricky process. The more people you can get to help, the better. It's already got caught in the corner there. Some extra help needed. If all the measurements are correct, it should sit flush on those support posts. It should squeeze. You push the post out that way, Joe. It should do. It should just slot down the side. That ends it. It's all a bit of wiggling and moving. Once you get the roof settled in and in position, you then need to make sure that the vertical posts are actually dead level vertical and not slanted, not at an angle. Then obviously once you're happy with that, then you can screw the roof down onto the support posts. We've now got this in position, and this is what it looks like from the inside. Now there is a gap in between the side panels of the roof and the side support posts. I think this is to stop it trapping any water in and rotting away, because we measured it at 45 millimeters on each end, and you need to secure the roof panel using 75 millimeter screws from the underside upwards. So that's 4 on each side, 2 in the edges and 2 in the middle, obviously spaced out evenly, making sure before you tighten it all down completely with those screws that everything is nice and level, all the posts are vertical. And then you need to do the ones inside the support braces there. They're a little bit trickier. Now there is a gap here. Now that is normal. And what we'll do now is fit the front roof braces. And this is the 650 millimeter roof brace here, and you've got 2 of these. And these need to match up with the side roof braces. Now whilst we're doing this, we're just going to support the roof in the middle, just to push it up a bit because it's flexing in the middle. Then draw your pilot holes, and you're using 75 millimeter screws, 1 on either end of the roof brace. So again, you're drilling pilot holes and then screwing in your 75 millimeter screws. So fit that exactly the same on the other side. And now it's getting really late. Let's carry on tomorrow. Before we fit the front and rear roof fascias, we're just going to secure the gazebo, and there's a few different options, but today we're going to be using the anchor bolts in a concrete base. Now we won't go into detail about this because you might be securing it differently, straight into the ground or using fence posts. But on our particular one, we needed to drill into the concrete base and then secure it using these anchor bolts. And then what I also did is, once I'd screwed it in, I just used some Pseudo Fix-It-All just to give it a really good bit of extra strength. I didn't actually screw any anchor bolts in on the outside because it was a little bit close to the outside of the concrete base, and I was really worried it was going to split. But there's plenty of support from the inside anchor bolts and the Pseudo Fix-It-All. And then once that's all securely fastened down into the concrete base, you can then tighten up the support posts by just tightening these bolts here, and that just squeezes the timber at the bottom, still making sure that it's in the exact upright vertical position. And now we can fit the front and rear fascias and the diamond center, which is the last piece of the jigsaw. So this is nice and secure, looking good. And these are the front and rear fascias. They are actually different. The one at the back has got tapered edges at the bottom, so that one is to go on the rear of the gazebo because it's got the tapered bottom. So let's get this one fitted first. So just lining that up on the top of the rear panel and in between and under the apex of the roof. And we're securing this with 40mm screws, one at either end, so you'll be using 4 for the rear fascias and 4 for the front fascias. Again, always drilling a pilot hole first. This is the back of the gazebo, and that is the other side, securely fastened. Now it's time to fit the front roof fascia. Using your 40mm screws. Now we've actually got some screws left over, so I'm going to use 4 in here. And then this is the final piece, the diamond centerpiece. I've already pre-drilled some holes in here. I'm just going to use some different screws here and screw that in. And then that just finishes it off, bit of decoration. Look at that, absolutely fabulous. It has taken 2 days and 2 to 4 people, but this thing is solid as a rock and great value for money. Can't wait to get the hot tub set up inside it, and I'll show you that shortly. Once obviously it's all secure, just go round to some of the screws inside the roof just to make sure they're still nice and tight. Quick cup of tea. And I've just put this small diamond centerpiece on the back, which I made up. Then if you want, then it's a good idea to go around and just check some of the screws in the upper roof just to make sure they're still nice and tight, because obviously the roof is flexing as you're moving everything. Then it's time just to start decorating, making it look homely. Look at that. We are very, very pleased with that. This is the eDecks Atlas Gazebo Deluxe version. We also got some LED lights with it. So we've just strung those up and faced the solar panels towards the sunshine, because we get plenty of sunshine in England. I've got my endless summer metal plaque already screwed up inside the roof panel, and now it's time to set up the hot tub. Oh, this is one of the reasons why we got this eDecks Atlas Gazebo, because it's an absolute perfect fit for our Lazy Spa Bahamas model. It is a tight fit, but it does fit, and it just makes you feel like when you're inside there, inside the gazebo with a bit of decoration, almost feels like you're on holiday. Let's get this thing filled up. It is a tight fit, but it's perfect. Hot tub's full up, and now it's heating, and there's the solar lights looking good. Next day, hot tub, nicely heated up, ready to get in. We've also installed a bit of bamboo netting at the back, just for a bit of privacy. Just tied that on with some string. And I'm now inside the hot tub, living the dream. Oh yeah, great stuff. Really happy with this build, and hope you're happy too. If you've got any questions or you're having any troubles trying to build it, just let us know in the comments below. Enjoy!